Hi guys, it's Mrs. Mattingly here, and I am reading Addison Cooke and the Tomb of the Khan, Chapter 35, The Forbidden Lands, and it starts on page 360. Addison's group walked their horses along the crest of a hill, high above the coal heaps and slag pits of Ulaanbaatar. Where to? Nobody asked. To the land no living Mongol may pass, said Addison, quoting Sir Frederick's last clue. Nobody and I don't know shared a dark look. What? Asked Addison. Does that mean something to you, a land where Mongols are forbidden to go? Nobody stopped his horse and turned to Addison. You speak of the Korrig, the great taboo. At its heart lies a sacred mountain called Burkhan Khaldun, guarded by the Dark Had. Any person who trespasses there is punished by death. Why? Asked Molly. Addison surprised the Dark Had by knowing the answer. He had read the secret history of the Mongols. When Genghis Khan was young, the Meerkat clan tried to assassinate him. He hid in the Burkhan Khaldun and believed the mountain saved his life. He declared the mountain sacred and decreed that his children and grandchildren should pray to the mountain every day of their lives. I don't know nodded, impressed. What Addison did not say was that ideas were now bouncing around in his brain like popcorn in a microwave. It made sense that Genghis would want to be buried on the mountain he declared sacred, and the fact that no Mongol would set foot there went a long way toward explaining how the Khan's tomb had remained hidden for 8 centuries. No one is allowed in the great taboo except the Black Darkhead, said I don't know, as if reading Addison's thoughts. Then I know we'll be safe. Not that safe. The penalty is death. Protecting a mountain is more important to you than human lives? Asked Addison. Nobody nodded firmly. The golden whip is the symbol of the Khan and of our country. If it exists in these mountains, it is more precious than a human life. Addison wasn't entirely sure if there was anything more precious than a human life, but he let the matter slide. Can you lead me to your fellow Darkhad so I can negotiate? We can, but they will kill you for entering these lands. Addison turned to I don't know. Do you believe in these rules? She shrugged. The Dark have been this way for 800 years. They're sort of set in their ways. We've come this far. I want to finish this. Addison looked back at Ulaanbaatar, filled with 1,000,000 Mongols who were more than a bit peeved with Addison's team for setting fire to a museum, blowing up a palace, ruining their horse race, and causing a riot. I think it's best if we go to the one place in Mongolia where no Mongolians can get their hands on us. Austere mountain peaks presided over the foothills. I don't know spurred her horse along a trail that wound into a deep forest. Stay close behind me. This is a wild land, filled with wolves and hunting eagles. There are brown bears in the mountains, as well as wild boar, lynxes, wolverines, and... She stopped short. Is your friend okay? Addison turned and to his horror saw Raj wiping himself with a handful of horse dung like it was a bar of soap. Raj, what are you doing? Clearly, said Raj, looking at Addison as if he were the weird one, I am masking my scent from predators. The forest opened up on a crystalline lake, reflecting the mountain peaks in a pristine way that reminded Addison of the Swiss Alps. The air was cool and clean here, untouched by man. Nobody sat his horse and scanned the forest foothills. He drew an ibex horn from his belt and blew a long, low signal that echoed across the valleys. He clicked his tongue, spurred his horse, and kept riding. In the afternoon, they reached a crag in the mountains, where boulders rose up on either sides of the path. Addison's first thought was that it was the perfect site for an ambush. His second thought was to wonder if he'd been reading too much Sun Tzu's. Tease? Nobody reined his horse again. He drew his ibex horn and blew another low, trilling call. He slid down off his mountain. I can't read today. He slid down off his mount in one fluid motion. He allowed the mare to crop grass while he sunned himself on a rock. "Wait," said Molly, shielding her eyes. "I thought I saw movement in those trees." "It's the black darkhead," said I Don't Know, dismounting like her brother. "They've found us." "I don't see anything," said Eddie. Addison felt a tingling on the back of his neck. He scanned the impenetrable woodlands just beyond the boulders. In a single flicker of movement, 24 bowmen stepped out from the rocks. One moment there was no one. The next moment there were 24 iron-tipped arrows poised on bowstrings ready to rip Addison's team to shreds. I Don't Know called out the dark head in their native dialect. A thick-browed man whom Addison took to be the chieftain barked a harsh word at I Don't Know, driving her to silence. Excuse me," Addison begged in his most reasonable voice. "Perhaps I should introduce myself." Armed men tore Addison off his horse and threw him to the rocky ground. Addison winced, arching his back in pain. He was pinned down, a knee on his stomach. A 12-inch steel dagger was pressed to his throat. He looked up into the midnight black eyes of the thick-browed chieftain. Addison swallowed hard and managed to croak, "Addison Cooke, nice to meet you." The darkhead bared his nicotine-stained yellow teeth. "You are on sacred ground. The penalty is death." "We're friends with nobody, and I don't know." "No one can know our names. The penalty is death." "Is that your answer for everything?" The man pressed his blade harder against Addison's neck. "I will take that as a yes." Addison found that the key to negotiation was discovering what the other person wanted. But in this case, the only thing the darkhead seemed to want was to kill Addison, and Addison was not willing to make that deal. "I have information," he said, desperate to find wiggle room to negotiate. "I know the Chinese triads and Russian Vyor who are coming to trespass on your land and rob the tomb of Genghis Khan." "We do not mention the tomb of Genghis Khan," hissed the warlord. "That penalty—" "Let me guess," said Addison, "is death?" Strong hands pinned his arms to the ground. His tie was loosened and his collar torn open, exposing his heart. Addison shut his eyes. The dark-haired warrior straddled Addison's chest, clutched his dagger in both hands, and raised it high over his head to strike. And that's the end of chapter 35. See you next time.